GIBS was established in year 2004. GIBS is affiliated to Guru Gobind Singh Indraprasth University, Delhi, and is approved by All India Council of Technical Education, Ministry of HRD, and Government of India for technical courses, and Bar Council of India for law courses. The institute is accredited by Category A by National Assessment and Accreditation Council and assessed as Category A+ by State Fee Regulatory Committee, a fee committee of Government of NCT of Delhi, and rated highest grading A by Joint Inspection Committee of Government of NCT of Delhi and GGS-IPO University. The institute has been rated grade A by Academic Audit Cell of GGS-IPO University consecutively from past 8 years. GIBS has also been rated number 2 by Times B School Survey 2018, 2019, and 2021. The institute conducts postgraduate courses of MBA, MBA International Business, and undergraduate courses of BBA, BBLLB, and BLLB. GIBS, with its fervor and blessings of its well-wishers, have come a long way as a school of excellence in the field of professional education. At GIBS, thrust is on overall personality development of students so that they can face the challenges in their competitive professionals, like with the life in value-based approach. Apart from providing quality education, emphasis is on to develop leadership qualities, risk-taking abilities, and decision-making skills right from the beginning of their professional education. Going by this agenda, the Institute conducts PD workshop on regular basis. Today's PD workshop on gender sensitivity in professional life is a sequel to the aforementioned objective. Gender sensitization is a concept of gender sensitivity where there is a recognition of gender role, identification of privileges, and discrimination within genders, and most importantly, creating gender awareness. The concept of gender sensitivity is a way to reduce the barriers caused due to discrimination and gender bias. Creating the right kind of gender-sensitive environment leads to mutual respect regardless to their genders. Representation of a person and a community not only advocates the equality but also adds a sense of inclusion to the previously marginalized community. For a healthy performance-oriented culture, the organization needs a right mix of talent, which is not bound by genders. Keeping this view in mind, CLS GIBS organized this PD workshop to sensitize our students regarding their important issues. Certain objectives are to understand the functioning of the gender sensitization, to understand the role of gender sensitivity in professional life, to disseminate the ethical, moral, and professional gender standards prescribed in the legal profession, to equip the students with the advantages, privileges, and responsibilities in professional life. In order to fulfill our intent of inculcating such expertise in the students, we have an eminent speaker with us, Dr. Sangeeta Laha, Associate Professor and Dean of Faculty, National University of Study and Research in Law, Ranchi. Dr. Sangeeta Laha has done MA in Political Science, MBA in Marketing, LLB and LLM in Hindu Law from Patna University, PhD from the University of Calcutta. Ma'am currently is pursuing postdoctoral program and her topic for research is titled Democratic Decentralization and Women's Participation, a critical study with reference to Panchayati Raj system in India. Ma'am has published a book titled Women and Legal Profession in reference to Indian context. She was assistant professor in West Bengal National Juridical Sciences, Kolkata, Chanakya National Law University, Patna, and has worked in Amity Law School, Amity University, Lucknow, as a professor and deputy director, where he was guiding PhD scholars apart from teaching PhD, postgraduate, and LLB students. Currently, she is an associate professor and dean of faculty in National Law University, Ranchi since 2018. She is teaching family law in the undergraduate level and local self-government and administrative law at the postgraduate level. She has presented and published several research papers and articles in journals of national and international reputes. To cite a few, titled Judicial Activism in Patent Law in India, an analysis of cases, evergreening of patents, substance use and abuse in India, a comparative study with other countries, published in international journals of arts, humanities, and management studies, and many others. Recently, she was invited as a panelist who spoke on sexual harassment in workforce in the 8th National Conference for Women in Police organized by IPS officer in Ranchi and by the United Nations Office of Drug and Crime South Asian region for participating in pattern and trends of trafficking in person in state on April 2nd, 2019 at Lucknow, Uttar Pradesh. She was also invited as a resource person on women's studies and gender sensitization in the refresher course by UGC, MHRD, Ranchi University, Ranchi. We extend our heartiest welcome to you, ma'am. Delighted to have you. We are privileged to have you here, ma'am. Now, without taking much of your time, I would like to request our speaker to take the session forward. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Sanjana, for giving such a vivid description of mine. I'm also honored to interact with you all in a very short notice. To come straight to the topic is gender sensitization in professional life, and today we are a little bit talking about not to some great extent, is on gender sensitivity. Now, before we start into the topic, both you and I must know what is the difference between sex and gender. Can anybody say the difference between sex and gender? Harshit, Rohan. Yes, Ankur.
Sex is the biological orientation of a human being, whereas the gender talks about how he personally feels about his orientation.
Correct. So sex, to take from Ankur, sex more or less talks about the anatomy of the body, whether he's a male or a female. Whereas, of course, it refers to genitalia and genetic differences. It's also anatomy, and talks about anatomy. It's also psychological, whether I'm a girl or a boy. Whereas gender talks about the appropriate behavior and attitudes, roles and activities, and how they should relate to people, to each other. Now, knowing this, these are more synonymous terms. We often confuse with these two terms, but knowing now the definition of these two words, let's move a little further. So sex, until and unless it is operated, it cannot be changed. But behavior, of course, can be changed. And today, we are talking about a society which refers to the behavior as a socially constructed roles and attributes that gives a society to consider appropriate, the behavior that is appropriate for men and women. Knowing the basic difference between gender and society, let's now move into a little bit on the statistical part. Now, if you have a close look on the Fortune India, the 500 listed companies reveal how acute the problem is of gender sensitization. 29 companies in the 2020 that was listed have, just 29 companies have women leaders with executive powers. The list of women heading some of the India's largest corporation includes Kiran Majumdar-Shaw, chairman of the State Bank group. Then you have, she was also managing director of Biocon, number 243 on the list. You also have Kakun Nakhate, president and country head of the India Bank of America. Then you have Meher Pudumji of Thermax. You also have Renu Sood Karnad, managing director of HDFC Limited. So Fortune India listed 500, but when it comes to leadership positions, the numbers are very few. let's say it's really negligible, that women are taken in leadership position. Why? Because we have a very set of norms regarding women. Women's role, as the society has made a painting of it, women's role are primarily caregivers in the society. We are supposed to take care of our family. So what happens is, midway, the woman leaves her career because her priority then becomes more of a family. Vis-a-vis, it doesn't go that with the man. So the major challenge a woman has to face is work-life balance. And those who can achieve the right balance will succeed. So a little bit of unbalance in the company, she goes down. A little bit of unbalance in the family, her reputation in the family also goes down. So there's hardly balancing between these two. She has got hardly any time to socialize professionally, where men have got more time and they take an effective use of networking, which of course a good leader should have. Now, if you take the banking and insurance sector, there are several sectors that are headed by women. Corporation Bank by PV Bharati as its MD and CEO. Indian Bank, Padmaja Chunduras as MD and CEO. So in the past 2-3 years, although they have retired, the former State Bank of India's chairman, Arundhati Bhattacharya, ended her tenure in 2016. But she was also maligned. Chanda Koshar had to resign as MD and CEO, but her image was also maligned. Naina Lal Kidwai, who was the former group general and manager of HSBC, also had a rich tradition of women in senior roles. Then we have women in oil and gas sector, auto sector, infrastructure. But none of the top 10 companies on the list are headed by women. We have women executives, that is no doubt. Vasudeva headed the oil refinery, Hindustan Petroleum Corporation, between 2014 and 16, known as HPCL. So the trend of India is at least till the mid-level executive, you will find some women are there. But by the time they are in the upper management level, the ratio, the proportion of women going upwards become less. You must have heard Indra Nooyi, the former Pepsi CEO, who was constantly ranked in the Forbes list as one of the most powerful women for many years. But when she was interviewed by Tina Brown in the World Summit in 2016, she mentioned that one of the toughest challenges she had to work on was not being treated equally by her male colleagues and having to claw her way up in the organization. She had continuously to struggle to prove herself in the face of discriminatory references from male colleagues, such as using the word sweetie or oh babe. I mean, these words are used sometimes unconsciously. But then it talks of gender bias, which is a major issue for women seeking leadership positions. And that's one of the reasons that many women, they step down before climbing on the stairs of the success on the gray wall background. Although women constitutes 46.9%, but that is at least 50%, near about 50% of the population, but there are only 40% of the women in the managerial role. So what I'm trying to say is there has been a gender gap and still gender gap in the leadership that has widened the woman to climb to the corporate ladder. And this sounds very frustrating to me, and many of the frustrating to the women colleagues who must be hearing this, that why is such a data, why such a gloomy data of lack of representation in leadership, and what has prevented them? So we must have a better understanding. by hearing some of the unique stories of the women who have encountered gender barriers and have found their own individual path to overcoming the obstacles. For example, Sangeeta Wooner, she shared her experience by saying, often male colleagues used to introduce her not by an executive, but by saying, oh, she's a mother of 4 children. I mean, this is a constant battle that woman has to face in the leadership role. It defines your personal life, whether you are happy with your husband or you are not happy with your husband, whether you have a family or not. If you have a family, how many children you have, if you have a children, what are their schooling, and the story goes long and long. One of the other female, she surprised by saying that a height was taken into consideration for being an executive, and because she had a height of 5 feet, in the workplace, her senior male executive often, made her feel uncomfortable by referring to her height. Now, what are these? Are they not sexually explicit? That many a times you will find males are sharing some sexually explicit jokes. I mean, it may be funny to a man, but it may not sound funny to a woman. Sometimes a recent sensitization program in a city-based MNC disclosed the fact that women have been receiving sexually marred emails. And imagine a situation when she was taken in an executive role by a senior boss who later on shoots a sexually explicit email. Now, how would she understand the credibility or the question or the intention of her immediate boss? So one has to be very careful with dealing with colleagues who are new to the office because they still have not learned the behavior of other colleagues. And it is taking time for them to warm up with other colleagues. The second, you will very often find in many of the offices, corporate offices, because the so-called definition of modernity now has done a change. It is a pat on the back of a woman. So before going to a meeting, somebody is hitting the woman at the back. Because modern scenario where women and men are more comfortable in each other's company, often you will find this behavior. So it is better that you must keep your hands intact and not try to tap your colleagues, even though she may be a good friend of yours, because this puts the other colleague in a discomfort position. The third most important aspect you will find in organizational behavior is flirting. Now, so long one is inside the office in the university, the behavior is very formal. But let's say they have a party in the evening hours, and often you'll find that male colleagues are asking the woman that whether she needs to be dropped at home or not. So such a situation may arise. And it only suggests that this is the inner gentleman and how he handles such a situation. It is better at this point of time, my dear students, that you should be more protective about your woman colleagues rather than trying to invade her private or other spaces. So what is the importance of gender sensitization? I've given you so many examples. What are the importance of gender sensitization in the workplace? Number one, we must understand the concept of gender sensitivity when there is a recognition of gender roles. Two, to identify the privileges and discrimination within genders. For example, 2 executives, male and female, one is paid more, one is paid less. So such a discrimination prevails. And third, which is more important, is the awareness part. So gender sensitization, today's topic is important because representation is very much important in the organization. And for healthy performance of an oriented culture, organization needs to have a right mix of talent, which otherwise an organization cannot flourish until and unless they make changes. They have attitudinal changes under the guise of ignorance. So every member of the organization must seek to learn and grow in their workplace. If they have an insensitive workplace, because it not only hampers, but it creates a hostile environment. So that's why gender sensitization is extremely important, as it helps the employees that they are valued, they are cared within the organization. And this is a very important part. But how would you create gender sensitization? What are the methodology, the means of creating gender sensitization? Number one, to have gender sensitive policy and processes. So policies and procedures needs to be extended to all members regardless of their gender. And this can be introduced by making propositions in order to acknowledge and understand different gender existing in the workplace. At the organizational level, gender discrimination leads to lower productivity, poor company morale, increased conflict, and even legal complications in certain extreme cases. So one must promote gender sensitization at workplace because it is of great concern. Second, we must have training and awareness workshop. Like today we are discussing on it. So certainly some awareness will be created, and this is the need for gender sensitization training. Training is a great way to address gender-related issues because training helps to inform and guide employees on appropriate ways of addressing and interacting with colleagues, clients, and partners. It helps the employee to understand where they lag behind, where there is a lack of understanding in regard to gender-related matters. And how do you create such training? Such training programs include quiz, through test, through assessment, to understand the perception of employees, to have workshop so that gender sensitive environment is created. Third, employees fit recruitment. Since each employee comes from diverse culture of sensitivity, organization should include and become an equal opportunity employer. In many organization, when they are asking for when the vacancy comes, you will find they write down equal opportunity employer, which means they do not distinguish between a male and a female, and jobs are available to all communities. So this is another way of inducting employees, that is creating an equal opportunity employer. Fourth, facilities and infrastructure. Installing facilities which are not just which are not even you don't have a good washroom for female, and now transgender has also come into the mainstream. You must have infrastructure that way. A recent Harvard Business Review confirms that there is a connection between gender discrimination at work and gender bias. So gender sensitization training is critical to address the gender biases, thus creating a positive and inclusive workplace atmosphere. Uber India, for instance, conducted gender sensitization training programs for its driver partners across the country. That is how to address the safety concerns of their growing female customer base. Again, the Godrej Group had gender sensitization workshop program, which was open to all employees, and that covered a wide range of gender-related issues, including employees' right and protection from sexual harassment at workplace. Typically, sensitization program is used in a variety of techniques, including group discussions, survey techniques, interviews, focus groups, mediations and conciliations, scientific evaluation metrics to compare the policies with behavior, identify problem areas that need redressal, etc. So we must have training for gender equality that will create program in their work. We can identify in training programs, we can identify specific problem areas. That is, what are the organization challenges? What should be the objective of the organization? How to improve general work practices? How should the interaction between genders or address certain overarching behavioral patterns, etc. If required, the organization must hire external consultants. It is also necessary to distinguish between intention and behavior. As I told you just now, when the boss had hired the female employee had good impression about the boss. But when she got a biased email, her impression was different. So we must distinguish what actually is the intention and behavior, and therefore the major goal of gender sensitization program is to identify and address unconscious biasness. Sometimes biases are within, but we do not know about it. So unconscious biasness and prejudices that creep into the workplace. One has to also maintain a holistic perspective. So these gender sensitization programs are beneficial when they address perspective, concern, and issues that are faced by both the genders. The issues that impact a man and the issues that impact women differently. So one has to address the roles, responsibilities, behavior patterns, and attitudes of both male and female employees that play a significant impact on the success of your training program. Now, how can you evaluate gender sensitization program? This includes, number one, culture that enables fairness and trust. Trust is a very important part in organization working. Supportive environment across genders. 2, growth percentage of women taking up more challenges, leadership-oriented roles. 3rd, the most important part is retention. Retention policies of employer must be there. That is, percentage of women or men leaving the organization due to unaddressed gender discrimination issues at the workplace. 4th, recruitment, percentage of women hired. So all this should be a part of the training program in order to mitigate gender-related issues. Now I'm coming to the last part of my lecture. That is what the government of India have taken initiative. The government of India, as law students or MBA students, you must be knowing, the government of India has already enacted a number of legislation to prevent exploitation, harassment of women, and to address the issues of discrimination and gender disparity. And this includes, number one, the right of children to free and compulsory education, RT Act 2009. This is a very important aspect. 2, the Criminal Law Amendment Act 2013. Why I say this act is very important? Because for the first time, cyber-related crimes have been mentioned here. For example, stoicism, voyeurism, stalking women through internet. Earlier, in our college days, we often used to wear Julie and Bobby. Those pictures had come out, so the boys used to whistle around. But now since internet is now the talk of the day, and we are using it every day, women are always stalked. So stalking and voyeurism has been discussed in 2013 amendment. 3rd, the Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act. So, women of live-in relationship has also been covered in the Domestic Violence Act of 2005. There's also legislation as the Dowry Prohibition Act of 1961. Then the Indecent Representation of Women Prohibition Act 1986, a very important legislation that has come up after the Me Too movement is the sexual harassment of women that is based on the Vishaka guidelines, the Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace, Prevention, Prohibition and Redressal Act 2013, the Prohibition of Child Marriage Act 2006, the Equal Remuneration Act of 1976, the Maternity Benefit Amendment Act of 2017. Coupled with this is the women representation in electoral process of the Panchayati Raj system, is the 73rd and 74th Amendment of the Constitution that has mandated 33% reservation of women in local governance. Many states have increased it to 50%. And then the Criminal Law Amendment Act of 2015 has been enacted that makes punishment more stringent for offenses like rape, sexual assault, etc. Other than this, the government of India has implemented various schemes and programs to overcome gender disparity and to provide equal status to women in the company. And these schemes are implemented by the Ministry of Women and Child Development for welfare of women. First, Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao to improve the child sex ratio, enabling education of the girl child. Two, Swadhar Griha scheme to provide relief and rehabilitation to destitute women and women in distress. Third, Ujala, a comprehensive scheme for preventing of trafficking and rescue, rehabilitation and reintegration of victims of trafficking and commercial sexual exploitation. Fourth, Rashtriya Mahila Kosh to provide loan to the poor through intermediary microfinancing organization, NGOs to promote their social economic development. And lastly, working women hostels for ensuring safe accommodation for women working away from their place of residence. So these are, in short, some of the plans and programs that the government of India has taken up in order to minimize women exploitation in workplace, in professional areas. Thank you very much. And that is how I comprehend my lecture today. And thank you for your patient listening. I'm open to any discussion and questions.
Thank you so much, ma'am. You are truly an epitome of knowledge. It was extremely valuable to be a part of this session. Ma'am, may I have your permission to take up a few questions that our audience would like to be answered?
Yes. Please, okay, go ahead. Yes, please go ahead. Am I audible? Ab kya hua?
This is a request to everyone. Is there any question? Please do ask.
I think I have covered all, so there is no question left for them. If they have any query, they may come up.
Good morning, ma'am.
Yeah, good morning. Good afternoon, rather. Yeah, good afternoon. It's already 12. Yeah.
Ma'am, as you mentioned all the acts. So, ma'am, is there any this term gender sensitization mentioned in our constitution as such?
No, as such it is not. But being a MBA student, you must be knowing we have Article 15 Clause 3 of the Constitution of India, which talks about that the state can make legislation in order to benefit the women and children of the society. So therefore, the Constitution by way of Article 14 and 15 does talk about equality. And what does equality? Equality not only in terms of law, equality before law, but equal protection. So when we are talking of equal protection, it is mandatory for the state to enact legislation or policies that would support the marginalized section of the society. And who are the marginalized section of the society? The Dalit women, the backward women, the scheduled class, scheduled tribe women. So therefore, it is the responsibility of the government of that state to formulate policies for the benefit of the women. And therefore, each state has come out with different schemes And this is only to promote gender sensitivity. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
I hope I could satisfy Srishti.
Yes, ma'am. Sure, ma'am.
I would like to ask you a simple question.
Yes, go ahead.
Ma'am, as we can see, there exists a belt of tribal areas near Jharkhand, near Hazaribagh and Chhattisgarh and West Bengal, near Siliguri. So I would like to know that how and what are the things to take care so that we can increase their representation in our society.
And this is a very vague question, I must say. I'm sorry. It covers so many things. Now in Jharkhand and in the borders of West Bengal, there's a lot of discrimination there. One such discrimination, if you could read one of my articles that has been published in Tehelka, is on witch hunting. Women are branded like witch even today. So legislation has come up in the state of Jharkhand, but can we prevent this? It can only be prevented by changing the mindset of the society. Legislation cannot curb everything. A lot of issues on witch hunting, issues on sexual exploitation, issues on widow women, their lands are sometimes snatched away. There are a lot of issues. There's not just one issue in this scheduled tribes.
So as an active member of the society, how can I help to eradicate these problems and make
One
them
of which just
come
now
out
I
of
told you, which every student can do if you have the unity and you have the initiative of doing, is bring gender awareness. Go to schools. Go to corporation schools. You don't have to go to rich schools where children from rich families are coming. Even also they need. I don't dispute, but go to schools which Sarkari schools. Try to sensitize the students. Try to sensitize the teachers. And that is how, if you do it even once in a month, you bring awareness to them. Tell me how many students might be knowing about sexual harassment at workplace? How many will be knowing about the protection of women in domestic violence? You can show this by, by figures, by your, cartoons. You can make them understand about domestic violence. You can make them understand about witch hunting, how women are stripped and they are asked to walk naked in Jharkhand. It's recently happened. Read the newspapers. So awareness program like today's topic is something, even if you don't hear me, something that goes in your ear, you might feel, yes, I can contribute to the society. And a very simple way, economical way, where you don't have to waste money is ask your organization to organize workshop training gender awareness in schools and colleges, especially in state-aided colleges, state-aided schools. That's another way of contributing. Awareness brings a lot of changes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am.
I don't think so there's any other question. Any question left?
Ma'am, am I audible?
Yeah. Who are you? If you introduce, then only I can know.
Ma'am, Nivedan here.
Okay. What are you doing? You're an MBA student.
No, ma'am. LLB student.
Oh, yes, Nivedan.
Ma'am, how can we promote gender equality as a student among us?
Not to talk something that puts the other side in a discomfort position.
Oh, okay.
Like when you are influenced by cinema, and half the time the cinema talks in a very colloquial language, even when they're meeting their girlfriends, the language they speak is not something very healthy. So speak in a healthy language with your peers. That will not only get respect for you, but it will take you in a long way.
Okay. Okay. Ma'am, you are not audible.
Mic is making a lot of noise. Generate trust and respect among your peers, among your class friends. You must know which tongue to use. So although she may be your friend, she's a basketball player or a tennis player with you, but you must learn how to respect girl students in your colleges. If you do that, you respect your mother and sister at home equally well. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes.
Excuse me, ma'am. This side Saranya Sharma.
Yes.
Basically, we talk a lot about women and it's women's right, but we don't have anything for the men. Like most of in recently, a Lucknow girl slapped a driver. It was so all over the news. So how can we generate the awareness for the men?
You asked me a question. Men have been ruling for time immemorial. So let us enjoy
Yes,
our
ma'am.
position now. Aranya, let us enjoy now. We have been submerged for so long. What is the harm if one girl among millions of people have slapped a driver? It is because she must be very nasty in her behavior. She must be very short-tempered.
Mhm.
You can't help it if a girl is short-tempered, no? What can we do
Yes,
about it?
ma'am.
So when we are
But
enjoying our position now, help us to enjoy. What is the problem you have? अब दो
what?
एक बदतमीज होती है, उनकी ग्रोन अप अगर बदतमीजी वे में हुआ होगा, she doesn't know how to control that her temper. And not only the driver, there may be many girls at home who doesn't even know how to behave with their domestic servants or helpers. Nowadays,
Yes,
you
ma'am.
must not use the word domestic servants. You must use the word helpers. They also
Yeah.
don't know how to with them, simply because that helper is coming every day to the home. You have to treat the helper with respect. Once you give respect, you will owe respect. If you don't respect a person, why will he or she, even a helper, will respect you? So it is all the behavioral pattern as how you're grown up or how you want to grow up and become a role model for others, for your friends, for your younger brothers, sisters, for your peers, for teachers who think, yes, there I have a student who is really a role model. She is good in every aspect, from behavior to studies to everything. अब एक लड़की को ड्राइवर को थप्पड़ मर गया, अरे हर दिन तो लड़कियां थप्पड़ ही खाती हैं, तो एक दिन उसने ड्राइवर को थप्पड़ मर गया, तो अब हम कर क्या सकते हैं? ठीक है? So don't worry about men. Think about how you do change the society in your small way. Even a drop in the ocean will matter. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Any other question? Or
good afternoon, ma'am.
you see, I was down with bad cough for the last 2 days. I just took you because your faculty requested me, but I cannot go beyond. My voice will tax me. So if we can do it in some other sessions again. Yes, Sanjana. It's more than 12 of 10 now.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much, ma'am, for clearing our doubts with such an ease and fineness. Although this question answer can go for long, but due to time restrictions and as you said that you're not well a bit, so I must conclude the session here. And I thank our honorable guest speaker, Dr. Sangeeta Laha, for sparing her precious time. Hope your words of values are a life changer for many. Thank you so much. And thank you to all who are present here, and have a nice day and stay safe.
And thank you for
Thank
your
you so
patience.
much. Thank you so much, ma'am, for taking our session at such a short notice. And in spite of you being so unwell, you've been taking a very long session. Thank you so much for clearing all our doubts. And it was a very good session. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you. God bless. See you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.